Welcome, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, to another wonderful edutainment, empowerment, infotainment edition of We All Be TV, also known as The Artivist Thinks. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, The Artivist. And this is like a new thing. This is the second week we are trying the Google Hangout stuff. I got some more things coming. I'll be going to a new format as well where we all be radio, debuting sometime this upcoming week. The boys and girls, scholars and laymen, welcome to this segment entitled They Set Before Rosa. That's right. They set before Rosa. Well, who I'm talking about when I mean Rosa? Rosa Parks, of course, the quote-unquote mother of the modern-day civil rights movement. But, of course, we all know that Black folks have been fighting for liberation ever since we set upon the shores here so many generations, maybe a couple of centuries ago. But I just wanted to talk about this because we're approaching the 60th anniversary of the start of the Montgomery bus boycott, which occurred December 1st, 1955, down in Montgomery, Alabama, which introduced us to a unknown at the time, a 20-something-year-old minister, new to town, who went by the name of Dr., or he was still working on his doctorate at the time, who went by the name of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who was the new minister at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. As we all know, December 1st was the day that Sister Rosa Parks refused to move from her seat on the Montgomery City bus, which in turn led to a 381 consecutive day bus boycott by 381 consecutive day bus boycott by the Black community. Very well organized. One of the most successful boycotts in American history. And it set the blueprint for what was to come with the American or modern day civil rights movement. But I want to talk about those unsung heroes and sheroes who did this before Sister Rosa, but never got the credit that they deserve in terms of, adding to the liberation struggle of Black folks in America. For example, you can go back to May 4th, 1884, to one Sister Ida B. Wells Barnett, the crusading anti-lynch crusader and also Black feminist, who on May 4th, 1884, refused to be moved from her seat on a train. She was forcefully removed by 3 white men, I believe, and thrown out the train. And she ended up going to court and suing the train company. And she was originally awarded somewhere between $400 to $500 for her troubles. But then that verdict was overturned by the Tennessee State Supreme Court, and she was forced to pay court costs. But this happened back in May 4th, 1884. This is well before December 1st, 1955. Also, you go back a couple of decades before that, to Ida B. Wells' mentor and dear friend, Brother Frederick Douglass, who was also known as a dedicated rebel rouser and agitator, for he will constantly make it a habit of trying to integrate restaurants and public transportation in his time. And sometimes he was very successful in integrating restaurants and public transportation like trains and whatnot. And that's not really talked about a lot unless you do your research. Then also you could talk about another one of Ida B. Wells Barnett contemporaries and friends, another beautiful Black shero who's not really talked about today, Sister Mary Church Terrell, whose father was the first Black millionaire in the South, Brother Robert Church Sr., who actually saved Memphis. He brought the city back after it lost its charter due to the yellow fever epidemic. He brought the city back by purchasing real estate and by buying the first bond to help bring the city back into fruition, Memphis. But Mary Church Terrell was one of the first Black women to get her college degree in this country. She went to Oberlin. And also, she dedicated a majority of the later part of her life trying to integrate Washington, D.C., its facilities. As you may or may not know, Washington, D.C. was actually resegregated by President Woodrow Wilson, who was voted into office in large part due to the Black vote. Black folks thought that Woodrow Wilson was the second coming of Abraham Lincoln, and they were proved incorrect. So what he ended up doing, Woodrow Wilson was a son of Virginia. He went to Johns Hopkins University. He didn't learn how to read till he was 12 years old, but I believe he got his PhD, and he was the former president of Princeton University and also the former governor of New Jersey. So that's interesting. He started to read late in life, but ended up, doing his thing, but not to the benefit of Black folks. So he resegregated Washington, D.C., and Mary Church Terrell devoted most of her adult life to integrating Washington, D.C. By the time she died, and back in the early 1950s, she was about 90-something years old. She was a guest of honor, I believe, of the Eisenhower White House right before she died. So she was another one that people don't really talk about when it comes to trying to fight the fight for integration of public facilities and also transportation. But then you also look at the fact that you look at this thing about buses, like Irene Morgan back in 1944, she refused to give up her seat on an interstate bus in Virginia. This is back in 1944. And in 1946, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in her favor that the state of Virginia was wrong. You cannot discriminate when it involves interstate commerce. So she actually won that battle. This is like the Supreme Court ruled on that. Thurgood Marshall was the lawyer for that case back in 1946. This is before 1955. Once again, this is before 1955. Okay, in Montgomery. And also back in 1944, you had the unfortunate case of a Black soldier named Booker T. Spicely in Durham, North Carolina, July 8th, 1944. He was on a pass from his military base, trying to enjoy himself. Was talking to a sister on the bus, got on the bus, and then some white GIs got on the bus, and the bus driver told him to move, and he refused to move. According to one of the white GIs, one of the white soldiers, he said, "Am I not fighting a war for democracy?" Something to that effect. That was what one of the white soldiers said, he said. And so he continued to argue with the bus driver until he got off the bus. And when he got the bus driver followed him off the bus like a George Zimmerman stalker type and shot the brother twice, including once in the heart, which killed him, and once in the liver. And the guy got off. And I believe the bus driver's name was Herman Lee Council. Never got charged. I mean, he never was convicted, excuse me. I guess they did have he had his day in court, but he was not convicted. And he ended up dying of old age back in 1982. Then if you go back to the 40s, 1946, February 12th, 1946, was another Black soldier, a brother named Isaac Woodard. He was coming home through South Carolina on his way to North Carolina, where he lived. He was coming from. Actually, has been honorable discharge from service. He had the rank of sergeant. He participated in the Pacific Theater during World War II. He was coming from Augusta, Georgia, on his way to North Carolina on a Greyhound, I believe. And he got into it with the bus driver, and only because he wanted to use the restroom during the stop. And he asked the bus driver, was there enough time to use the restroom? And they got into a little bit of argument and just a little verbal disagreement. The bus driver said, okay, you could use the restroom. And then I believe at the next stop or so, the bus driver notified the police. I guess he said he had some type of uppity nigga on his bus. You know, he claimed, or the police claimed later, that brother Woodard, excuse me, brother Woodard was drinking beer, but he was not drinking beer. Matter of fact, he did not cause any problems, you know, after he used the restroom. He was just to himself. So what they ended up doing, the police, led by the police chief named Linwood Shull, dragged the brother off the bus, beat him up real bad in the alley, and punched him in the face repeatedly, most in particular in the eye section. They punched him all up in his eye. And I think the police chief actually, on the way to the police station, they kept on beating him in the face, in particular in the eye. And they used billy clubs and started punching him in the eye with billy clubs. And by the next morning, he was blind. Never regained his sight. His eyeballs was ruptured. Some people say his eyeballs were gouged out, but his eyeballs was most definitely ruptured in the sockets, and he was never able to regain his eyesight once more. They put him in a hospital, substandard treatment, because he was a black man. His family, he went missing for almost 3 weeks until his family found out where he was located. Then the NAACP got involved, and President Harry Truman was pissed off by what happened to this black GI, and so was film director extraordinaire, the guy who directed and created, Citizen Kane, one of the all-time film classics. Orson Welles, who had a radio show or radio broadcast at the time, was also pissed off. And so this got a lot of national attention, a lot of outrage from federal government officials, including the president, and also high-profile white celebrities like Orson Welles got involved. As a matter of fact, folk singer Woody Guthrie wrote a song called "The Blinding of Isaac Woodard," which was very popular, one of his most popular songs, actually. And so they had another kangaroo court for the police chief, and he also got off. And it was like, the white folks erupted in the courthouse. They gave him a standing ovation. They cheered this guy on. And so Isaac Woodard, he served his country, only to be served a disservice by his country, was blind for the rest of his life. I believe the NAACP raised some funds to take care of him for the rest of his life. And he ended up dying September 23rd, 1992, at the age of 73, up in Bronx, New York, I think at the VA hospital or VA retirement home, buried with full military honors up in the state of New York, whereas the police chief never faced any other problems after that court verdict. He ended up dying December 27th, 1997, at the age of 95. Where's the justice? Where's the love? So, this guy, this is another thing, a bus incident, right? So all these things with buses. Then you got Jackie Robinson, right? The court martial Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, before he was a sports pioneer, he also was I believe a lieutenant in the 761st tank battalion, the 761st tank battalion, known as the Black Panthers. They was the all black tank battalion. I think basketball great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote a great book about the history of the 761st tank battalion. And Jackie Robinson, I believe, was a lieutenant in that battalion. And he was court-martialed down in Texas because he was on a bus and he refused to, to be put in his quote place. I guess he got into it with the bus driver. He was about to, he was willing to put his life on the line, actually. He had his hand on his gun, about to draw down on the people. Then the MPs arrested him, and he stood court-martial, and he actually won. So this is the Jackie Robinson. People got this perception of Jackie Robinson, rather, of him being a get along, go along Negro. So I'm just showing you that he was court-martialed while he was in the military for refusing to give up his seat to white people. So that's the other Jackie Robinson they don't really talk about or amplify. So all this stuff is going back with buses. Now, this is before Rosa Parks. All this stuff is dealing with transportation issues, with black folks knowing their place while they're traveling. So I just gave you all these cases, so you can look all this stuff up. Don't have to take my word for it. Then you go back to Montgomery before Sister Rosa Parks, refused to move. You also had, the case of Claudette Colvin, the black teenager who actually refused to move out of her seat on the city bus months before Rosa Parks did. But because of the optics, the media thing, the perception, they didn't feel like she was the right fit. The people that was trying to, organize the movement, they didn't think she was the right fit. I think some of that had to do with her age. I guess she was a little bit what they call sassy, and she was dark. And we talked about colorism a lot in the black community. So she was too dark. She was darker than the paperback. And also, not too long thereafter, she became pregnant by a married man, I believe, in the sources I read. She was pregnant by a married man. So they said, oh, no, we can't use her. Let's get the light-skinned, Sister Rosa Parks, light-skinned, educated, sophisticated, secretary for the local NACP. She just fit. She was a perfect fit for what they were trying to do. So it's a lot of politics going on in this movement stuff. So sometimes the people that are oppressed end up oppressing other people that are oppressed. So that's another story. But Claudette Colvin, we know now she's still around. She lives in New York City, if I'm not mistaken. But also, you had back on August 12th, 1950, you had a brother named Private First Class Thomas Edward Brooks, who was from Montgomery, August 12th, 1950, because it was a thing when you rode the buses down there in Montgomery that you go to the front door, you go to the front of the bus to pay the bus driver. Then you had to get off the bus and walk to the back of the bus to get on, to the second door. And sometimes what them cracker bus drivers would do is that the black person would pay to ride the bus. They would pay the fare. Then once they got out to try to board it on the second, through the second entrance, the bus driver will pull off. So, Private First Class Thomas Edward Brooks, he was a proud brother, military guy. Just, I believe he was just 21 years old. He was dressed up in his uniform. He paid for his fare. The white bus driver told him, no, nigga, move to the back of the bus or get off the bus and go to the back, go through the back door. And he refused because he said, I want my money back before I get off this bus. He knew, being from Montgomery, he knew what time it was with the white bus drivers. So the white bus driver got pissed, calling the police. Police came on the bus. It's different versions of this story, but let me just make it like this. I just told you the guy was in full uniform, right? August 12th, 1950, you know what time it is in America for black people. So the police actually, from eyewitness accounts, the police took out a billy club and slammed it on the brother's head, probably fractured his skull. Cracked his skull probably because somebody said it sounded like somebody cracking walnuts or something when she heard that billy club hit the brother's head. They dragged the brother off the bus. Now the police said it was, in fear of their life, but they ended up shooting their brother in cold blood. He never had a chance because, like, the police story acted like he ran and then the police shot at him. But from my understanding, after he got hit the way he got hit with the billy club on top of his head, he was in no shape to run from anybody, and the police officer shot him in cold blood. And matter of fact, E.D. Nixon, one of the lead organizers, the president of the NACP down in Montgomery, also one of the lead organizers for the Montgomery bus boycott, he filed a complaint with the police. And of course, nothing was done. And from my understanding, there were two more brothers that were killed by, under similar circumstances, trying to get on the bus or on the bus before Rosa Parks came on the scene to do her thing on December 1st, 1955. So I say all this to say, we need to do a better job of being the stewards of our history. When I'm talking about we, I mean black people. I mean, we need to do a better job of telling these stories. These stories should not be in the dustbins of history. You got to ask yourself, who decides what stories get told and why? Just like in the media, we got to learn how to control our media. Got to learn how to, get these stories out to the masses by any means necessary. Malcolm X told us years ago that the media is the most powerful entity on the earth because it controls and influences the minds of the masses. And I'm trying to do my part, my humble platform, to get the word out about who we are as a people, because our people perish not because of lack of knowledge, but because, more specifically, lack of knowledge of self. And if you looking in the mirror and you don't know who that person is staring back at you, then God damn it, you have no friends. That's just the way it is. But I want to say, I'll just say that we come from a history of protest. I mean, the African American tradition of protesting and signifying all the other stuff. But you yourself a favor, take a look. Is in our book. Or talk to some elders. A lot of these elders have this wisdom. It's like this old African proverb: whenever an old man dies, a library dies with him. I'm paraphrasing it. I don't know how it really goes, but it's something like that. But what I'm saying is, I just told you just several examples of people who did something similar to what Sister Rosa Parks did, but they did it before, and they did it without any type of recognition. So we got to remember sisters like Irene Morgan and brothers like Private First Class Thomas Edward Brooks and brother Booker T. Spicely and Sergeant Isaac Woodard, and say their names, because as long as we keep on talking their names and saying their names, they'll never die. You can't kill energy. But we come from that line. And so I want to thank y'all for listening to my little spiel about, these stories. And if you like what you heard, please feel free to check out the channel. It's out there for you all, to enjoy. I really do enjoy serving the people, giving them this information. And you always, back check the information I give you. You can research on your own the information that I give you. I think it's very important that people do their own research, because research has its own rewards. It has its own rewards. So I want to thank everybody. If you feel like, that we're doing a decent job, or you want to support what we're doing, and as we upgrade, what we do to get the stuff out there, we hope that the people will support us in upgrading. So please feel free to donate. You can find a donation information, place somewhere nearby. And trying to think of what else, But no, let's subscribe to the channel if I didn't say it already. And I'm trying to think of this, any other stories I can tell right now that's on my mind to share with you people, our people, my people. And right now, I think that is all. I think I gave y'all enough for right now. So just research those names I gave you, and feel free to share. In the words of great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. I'm out.